This is not really how I envisioned giving this speech. But yeah, I changed out of my cozies in order to give this speech, even though I'm not really sure that anyone but my mom is going to be watching it. But here it goes. I guess let's start at the beginning. So let's start by saying, for those of you who've forgotten who this face belongs to, my name is Caitlin. I'm one of your classmates and one of your friendly neighborhood class reps, who some of you may have not seen since our white coat ceremony, and things have changed since that day, to say the least. When I told my family I'd been nominated to speak at commencement, my daughter Isla said she was so excited, but didn't think I should stand up on the stage and talk this time. No. Instead, she had a better idea. She thought I should sing this speech. So here goes nothing. No, I'm totally just kidding. Could you imagine if I sang this? But anyway, so I don't think I would be wrong in saying that if pre-pandemic, people would have been able to place bets on which class, past or present, would be best equipped to handle the tumultuous task of finishing clinics virtually, that the class of 2020 would not be near the top of that list. But here we are, the plucky little class that could, a class that has weathered this storm with tenacity, empathy, and grace. Here we are, together but not together, in the closing moments of one of the most foundational chapters of our lives, about to close the book on being a student forever, except for the few that are continuing to pursue PhDs or master's degrees, and step out into the world as brand new doctors. However, I don't think any of us would have expected that the world we were stepping out into would resemble anything like it does currently. I admit, when I was first notified that I was nominated to speak at our commencement, I started writing a speech that looked much different from this one. But let's be honest, I hadn't actually written anything down. I just thought through a few themes in my head, because the only skill I've successfully refined during this time is my expert level procrastination. That speech focused a lot on growth and preparedness, which honestly is still very true about our class and our experience over the past year and what's ahead. But it just doesn't feel right to give that speech, given we're in the midst of a global pandemic, which, among other terrible, horrible things, has completely disrupted the end of our veterinary school experience. I don't think I'm alone in my seemingly continuous cycle of feelings that range from sadness to anger to ambivalence to rage to meh. I also don't think I'm the only one that feels like all of the wind got knocked out of my sails, and that all of the momentum I had built through the clinical year, which was translating to confidence that I could succeed as a real-life veterinarian, just dissipated as it became increasingly clear that the original 1 to 2 week time frame of being off clinics was going to be more or less indefinite. But this journey has also been so much more than the end, even if the end will likely ultimately define it. When we first started our clinical year, I think it would be safe to say that we didn't exactly have the most glowing reputation as a class. On the whole, we have historically been a group who is quick to react first and process second. However, that's not what I've seen while working together in the hospital, nor what I've seen as we've been forced to navigate through this unprecedented situation. Instead, I've seen a group of people who are quick to compassion and empathy, a group of people quick to lend a hand or a pen or a highlighter to those in need. And if you know anything about the VMC, a highlighter is one of the most treasured possessions of a vet student. I've seen a group of people who are quick to talk through a case before you presented it to a clinician, so you could feel that tiniest bit more confident in your problem list, differentials, and recommendations. A group of people who are quick to share in excitement of others' accomplishments. A group of people who are quick to share in elation as our favorite patients were finally discharged from the hospital, and just as quick to offer a hand to navigate through that murky swamp of grief for those patients that didn't make it. And in the past few weeks, I've seen a group of people who are quick to adapt to digital clinics, a group of people who are quick to check in on each other, and quick to find ways big and small to help, and a group of people who are quick to tap into perseverance and hope. For the past few weeks, I've spent a lot more time than usual running, which admittedly was already quite a bit. This being a very meager attempt to turn my body into some sort of perpetual motion machine, simply to physically achieve relentless forward progress. And as I've been running, my thoughts have continuously been pulled back to a concept that I often found myself drawn to when we were still allowed to be within the walls of the VMC. So just a little background, Gary Cantrell is a father of modern ultra running, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a ridiculous sport in which people run further than a marathon, sometimes up to 200 miles or more at once, for fun and sometimes measly amounts of money. Anyway, he has a quote that I've gone back to so many times throughout our clinical year, and it's this: "It never always gets worse." It never always gets worse, I would say to myself as I cleaned up my hemorrhagic gastroenteritis patient's kennel for the 5th time in what couldn't have been more than 20 minutes. It never always gets worse, I would say to myself as my UO cat reobstructed within 10 minutes of having his catheter pulled. It never always gets worse, I would tell myself when I finally sat down to eat my lunch at 4:30 p.m. and realized I hadn't written a single word in the medical record or started a single discharge for any of my patients that day. It never always gets worse, I would tell myself when 2 of my patients died within an hour of each other. It never always gets worse, I find myself now repeating, as it continues to feel like the goalposts are being moved seemingly every minute as we try to navigate through a pandemic. And on the whole, it never did always get worse. On my worst days in the hospital, there were still moments of hope and joy and kindness that kept me moving forward. And now, even on the days when I feel overwhelming despair, confusion regarding what life is going to look like on the other side of this, I know that I and all of you have participated in a radical act of love and kindness. By foregoing our last few weeks in the clinic and the pomp and circumstance of an actual graduation ceremony, we have aided in keeping our loved ones and fellow healthcare workers as safe as possible. And that is really powerful. And so, to my classmates, it has been one of the greatest honors of my life to be a member of this class, and I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I can only really say this. I don't know that we'll be the best doctors or what percentage of us will still be practicing veterinary medicine 5, 10, 20, or 30 years down the road. But I do know this, that anybody lucky enough to have a member of the class of 2020 as a colleague in any capacity will have a person who is gritty and tenacious, empathetic and compassionate, a person who dares to still be optimistic that they can make a difference and improve this profession. And most importantly, they will have a person who has stood in the face of the storm of overwhelming uncertainty and said, I may not know what the road ahead looks like, but I will find a way forward. And remember, it never always gets worse. I'm like 97% sure of it. And so I love you. I wish that this looked different, and congratulations. And hopefully we'll see each other soon in the future.